All right, so you want to make some maps, but how are you going to do that? How are you going to make things that kind of look like this or like this? They're going to be of high quality that you can actually say and be proud of. You're not an artist, your friends aren't artists. How are you going to make these things? And also, what's the point? Are you ever really going to look at these after you make them? Well, in all honesty, these things can really help with your campaign prep as a dungeon master, make your life a little bit easier. Don't believe me? Well, let's talk about it. Hello everyone, my name is Howard. This is the Blue Collar DM YouTube channel. This channel is actually dedicated to breaking down barriers for new players, dungeon masters alike. We actually do stream on this channel, answering a lot of your questions on Monday, Wednesday, Friday here on YouTube at 9 o'clock. Then we switch over to Twitch at 9:30. Link for the Twitch channel down in the description below. Also, if you like what you see here, make sure you like, subscribe, hit that notification bell so that way you see more of this kind of stuff as we're moving forward into the future. Now, let's talk maps. And why are they going to be really all that important for our games? Obviously, it's nice to have these visualizations that look as pretty as the ones that I showed here in the intro, but how are they going to really be useful? Well, believe it or not, the geography of your maps can actually really help to inform you what's going on in your world and actually, kind of tickle that little imagination inside your brain to actually kind of pull in a lot of different elements from whether it be Dungeons and Dragons, Pathfinder, and see how they kind of fit in your games. Say if you have some mountains in the area, maybe there's some barbarian tribes, maybe there's some giant tribes that live kind of in that area. Maybe we have a rainforest, maybe there's a group of elves that are rangers or something like that that kind of live in that area. Maybe there's some hobbits in that area, some halflings. Maybe we have a nice little port fishing town that maybe it's ravaged by some sort of weird kind of invasive species of creature, and that's causing a lot of issues in the town. There's a lot of different ways you can actually utilize the geography to kind of inform you what's living there, and so then maybe you can actually figure out what's going on there. Now, with all that said, how are we going to make these things? Well, we're actually going to get into that. We're going to go over to the computer and we're actually going to look at Inkarnate. There's a lot of other different map making, different softwares out there, but I find Inkarnate gives you the most for what you need as a dungeon master just starting out and want to kind of create maps for free with a very low barrier and actually kind of make some really cool visualizations and again, help you inform your game prep. So we're actually going to go over the computer and we're actually going to go over a quick tutorial on how to make a map over there, and then I'll show you some examples of what I mean when we talk about using the map to kind of inform your games. Let's get to it. All right, guys, so now that we're over here at the computer, we can kind of get into Inkarnate. So let's actually go over there right now. I know, cool transitions. So now that we're over here on Inkarnate, we can actually talk a little bit about the interface. So this is what's going to happen when you actually load up for the first time. I've already been in here and made a bunch of maps for my game, but all you need to do is once you have an account, I am on the free account right now, just to make my life a little bit easier. Once I get some of those pro style kind of stamps and stuff like that, we'll make another video for that. But I just want to kind of show you guys how Inkarnate works when it comes to creating your maps. So right now I've got all these maps, but we're just going to make a new map, and we just do that simply by hitting new map. We're going to need to pick a style of map. For this one, we're actually going to do we're just going to do fantasy world, and I am doing these all for free, just for this case. And then we can only really choose one type of map right now for the high quality stuff. So we're just going to go with what they give us. And this is what you're going to get in the interface right here. You're going to see kind of all these little buttons here, and they all kind of do different things. So this one right here is your pointer tool. If you have any assets on the map, you can kind of click on them and drag them around. The shovel tool actually helps make land masses. So you can see I've made a couple little islands here just by clicking. You can actually hold down the mouse button and actually drag and make some other ones. Let's see if I can make a full smiley face here. There we go, easy enough. And we'll curl this up. Cool. So we need a nice little smiley face here. And then if we wanted to, we could actually change the colors of the land masses by coming in here. That's what this brush tool is. This stamp tool allows us to kind of put some stuff down on the map wherever we want them. So there's some mountains. We have a text tool here we can use to just kind of put down here. I'll just put islands for now. And then this is actually the path tool. This you actually will need a pro account in order to access, but I'll show you how to kind of make some paths yourselves if you don't have a pro tool. And then you can also make little notes. You can put little landmarks here and put in little notes for your DM, notes, lore, whatever the case may be. But for right now, I'm just going to press cancel. And like I said, you can use this pointer tool to kind of click on anything that you need to. You can delete it. You can actually rotate them if you want to by kind of coming over this little circle area. You can actually come over here to the edge and make it bigger, smaller, whatever you need it to do. And that's what it kind of does. If we also wanted to put down a stamp here and we wanted to say change the size of the stamp, we actually have this toolbar up here. And a lot of them are pretty intuitive. This one's actually your size. You can use the S and W keys. So if I'm just over here and I hit the S key, it makes it smaller. W key makes it bigger, and you can see that kind of change up here, or you can actually change it and you can see my mountain there changing in size. Right here is the opacity. We can't change that in this part of the account, but there's actually certain things you can change how opaque the paint is when we get to the brush tools here in a second. We also have the rotation angle, so you can change the rotation angle here as well instead of just having to plant it and rotate it. And then you can actually pick the layer that it's on. Right now we're on layer 1, but you can kind of layer stuff on top of each other. So if you want to have certain things in the foreground as opposed to the background, you can do that here. And then we have this radius for fill area, which we can't play with this particular one, but we can change the density of the particular things that we're trying to do. So if we play with this, you might be able to show that. See how if I change the density, these mountains are farther away if I hold the button, but then if I increase it, it's gonna make them closer together. So that's what the density tool does. You can actually use some of the simple shortcuts that you normally use within like a Word document to kind of change things. So if you hit Control Z, it's going to undo the last thing you did, which is kind of nice. So you don't have to worry about having to like click on every individual thing to delete it. You can do it that way. So right now I'm going to actually get out of this map because this one's not really anything that I was trying to make. So we're just going to leave here. We're going to come back into another map. We're going to make another fantasy world map really quick. But I just wanted to show you guys kind of the interface and how that kind of works within Inkarnate. But one thing that I like to do as a dungeon master when I'm creating a new world is I actually like to use this little world generator tool, which is kind of nice over here on the right side. And it can actually help you a lot with kind of trying to create stuff and kind of inform what your game is going to be like. So if you want a really high ocean setting with a lot of water-based combat, you'll bring the ocean percentage up a little bit more. If you want more land masses, you'll bring it down. We're just going to bring this one to 65 where it was before, no stamps, and we're just going to generate the world. And Inkarnate's going to randomly create a map for you here on your interface, which is really nice. And you can use this to kind of play around and actually make it your own. So like we were saying before, and I'll go into these tools again to kind of show you. Say if we want to change some of these different land masses. So we have these like really narrow kind of areas, and say we wanted to fill those in. We can actually make our tool a little bit smaller and come over here. We can click once, it's going to fill it in for us and kind of make a natural landmass. You can change what the shapes are going to be with like the circle tool, but I like using this little star tool because it makes a more natural looking landmass when you do it that way. And simple as that. So let's say we wanted to create a landscape. Let's go to this island area and we'll say it's kind of a tropical area. So I'm going to zoom in for the time being. You can just use your simple zoom button on your mouse to do that. And I want to change the color. So in the base Inkarnate color palettes, you actually get these different colors, which is really cool. You have some grasslands, you've got some just some brown lands as well. You've even got some wintry kind of lands. You also have some water textures as well if you want to kind of add some lakes and stuff. But for right now, I think I'm just going to go with this lighter green, and my plan is to kind of make this a rainforest. But first I want to kind of give a base color to my map. So I'm just going to fill this in with some green, and you can see that it's kind of filling it all in there pretty thick. So we have that now here just as a base to go on top of that brown layer, because that brown layer isn't really anything I really want on my map. Now I'm going to go back into the catalog, and I'm actually going to pick this. I want this kind of darker brown texture. And what I'm going to do actually to kind of create some kind of like gradation is I'm actually going to take this opacity and I'm going to take it down just a little bit. So now when I'm just clicking now, I'm just like hitting little clicks on the mouse. You can see that I'm kind of darkening the area. It's not turning it completely brown, but it's kind of darkening this area compared to over here. So we can kind of fade some of these colors in, and then we'll make it even thicker over here. We'll say this is like a thicker rainforest kind of area. We're kind of almost making a darker green color as opposed to this kind of light color. And then I'm trying to thin it out as I go out this way, kind of make it a little bit thinner. And then there you go. We have a good kind of base for kind of things to be on here for the different colors that we're giving to it. Now, if we wanted to make a path, this is like if we really wanted to make a path and we wanted to have something that kind of leads out here, let's say we have a main road where you don't have this path tool, you can actually use these paint tools to your advantage. So I'm going to make a path about this wide. We're going to bring the opacity all the way up, and we're actually going to bring the softness all the way down. And what this is going to do is you can see it makes a really thick looking print. And I'm just going to hold the mouse button down, and we're going to create like a windy little path here. And actually this might be a little bit too big. We'll actually go a little bit smaller. Say that was a main road, and then it branches off, creates So eventually you end up at some tree line maybe, and we'll say that it appears there. Maybe we'll put like a city here, and that's why there's like this kind of like major road here, kind of coming this way. I'll try to fill this in a little bit more. Cool. And then I'll take the softness all the way up and bring it up here. And I think I am gonna put a city here, so I'm gonna darken this area a little bit more, so that way it's, you know, it kind of looks like it's developed land a little bit. And kind of make that a little bit more obvious. We'll darken out here a little bit. And then we're gonna go into the stamp tool. So now we're gonna kind of create some landscapes here. So if we go into the catalog, right now it's got everything, all your stamp sets chosen. Right now it's actually showing me all the different ones that I can use. I'm gonna put in some mountains kind of on the top of the map for now, just to kind of showcase some of that stuff. So right now I've got these giant mountains. And in the grand scheme of things on this world map, this is a small area, so we don't need mountains that are this big. So we're actually gonna come in here a little bit, and we'll say maybe there's like a little mountain pass here that's gonna restrict some of the people from getting in this area. We'll throw some of these mountains down, and then we can, and as you can see here, it's randomizing the stamp for you. So if you actually come back over here, you can either choose to only want one kind of mountain, or it's gonna randomize the stamp, so it's gonna create much more natural different formations in there, which is really cool. And then we got some smaller mountains that we can kind of throw in here to kind of like give some variation, to show that like these mountains aren't all uniform in size. And we'll say that that kind of ends that there. In fact, I want to change a little bit more of this. I'm gonna get rid of the hard lines there. In fact, I'm just gonna get rid of all of that, but we're gonna leave some of this brown texture here for our city. Then we'll come back into the stamp tool, we'll come back to our catalog, and you can see that we have some of these different little city tiles and stuff like that in this keep formation. I'm actually gonna use this human city here, kind of be as a landmark, and I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger. Pulling down the W key, and you can see it kind of appear here on my mouse. And I'm just gonna plant it right there. And if I zoom out a little bit, it's gonna make the details a little bit better as well, once it all kind of loads in and gets solid. But you can see how kind of cool this looks. And then go back into stamps, open up the catalog. Now, like I said, I wanted to make a really thick, dense forest over here, kind of almost like a rainforest. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take these trees, and I'm just gonna plant them all over here. And I'm holding down the button, and it's randomizing the trees that I'm using. I'm not too worried about getting stuff onto the water, because I can go back in there and select it and delete it as I need to. But we're just kind of throwing some trees in here. You can slow it down so that way fill in this area really nicely. And we'll say this, maybe this is like some sort of dark wood. I'm already changing it. I don't really want this to be a rainforest anymore. I'm thinking that this is just gonna be a really thick wooded forest that our adventurers have to go through. We'll just keep doing that. And then I'm actually gonna stop right there, because what I like to do sometimes is actually utilize, if you click this little magnifying glass, you can kind of drag yourself around. I like to utilize some of these little spaces to kind of create some landmarks. I'm gonna come here, I'm gonna select some of these trees, some of these happy little trees, and we're just gonna get rid of them. Like I said, you can go on the water and then like not worried about it, and then select them and start getting rid of them if they're going off your map a little bit too much. We got some here. Individually select some of those, because I do want some near the line of the water. And we got some kind of coming out here. We got one in the water there, one in the water there. Got a couple more here. Yeah, that's a good start. So then we'll drag ourselves back over here. We'll zoom out a little bit and take a look at what we got here so far. The further you zoom in, the more kind of muddy it gets, but that is okay. Because the idea is that the further you go out, the better this map looks as we're making it. And we'll go back into the catalog. Let's see if we can find something interesting. Here, we can take this boat here. We can make it kind of smaller to kind of represent that, hey, maybe there's a trade route over here. Zoom in, it looks a little bit better. Then back into the catalog. Maybe there's a sea serpent that kind of resides over here that people don't know about, but we're gonna throw it in the water there anyway, just as a cool little danger. Got a compass here. We can kind of give our map kind of a legend, so we can plant that compass down at the bottom. And then let's say we want to put some farms around the city here. We can actually make them real small. Throw them down there. Kind of represent that there's some little hamlets there. And then maybe there's a keep out here in the mountains that kind of like acts as a gateway here as people kind of come down in this area. And then maybe let's do one more little village here, kind of on the coastline. Make it a little bit bigger to show that it is actually a village, not just some general farmland. And there we go. So we have a little kind of fantasy world here already, which is really kind of interesting. Down here, you can actually save it. We'll just save it as new map, just so that way I don't lose all the changes that we just did. And then we have this like little kind of like little starting continent kind of that we can play with our friends here. I'm gonna try and see if I can make this tile look better. I'm not sure why it's getting not usually that fuzzy. All right, come on. There we go, that's a little better. The quality on this one's a little bit down because I am using the free software, so, but it can come out and you'll see when we export it, it's gonna have some really higher quality maps. And then, like I said, if we wanted to make our own little path, I'm gonna make it a little softer than I did before. Come down real small. And maybe we can like kind of describe like, hey, this path kind of crosses over in this area. Make it even a little bit smaller. 6. That kind of comes down here. Winds its way down to the city. Just like that. Fade it in. There we go. So we have a little route, and if we zoom out, we can see that, hey, this is a main pathway. Come back here. But now these kind of things can inform our decision of like what our campaign is going to be about. So the way I like to look at these is just to kind of be like, okay, so we got a dense forest here. So what's going to live here? Well, maybe there'd be some elves or something like that. Maybe there's like an elven civilization. So maybe we want to put something like that in the center of the map, but we want to make it kind of smaller. And so maybe we plant a little elf village there. And then maybe there's like some trolls that kind of live in this area. Maybe we want to put a lake. We come back in here, we grab some of the water, and we kind of like put a little riverbed in here, or a little lake bed. And maybe there's a troll that lives in this area. And then now we can like kind of give a name to our little things here. I'll just put here right now city, just to kind of give us an example. But you can see how this can kind of like inform a bit of your campaign building, because now you have this geography that can tell you that maybe there's certain things that live in certain areas. So like maybe there's some barbarian clans that live in these mountains that we have to deal with. Maybe there's some giants. Maybe they're in this like swampy area in the forest. Maybe there's a hag that lives out in a little hut over here. You can kind of use the geography to kind of inform some of the like different story beats that kind of can happen in your campaign just based on the geography. Maybe this city doesn't get attacked very often because it's very well protected. It's got this kind of like narrow area in the mountains that people can go through. There's no real civilizations on this side of the map to the left there. So nothing really comes from this area to attack that way. The only way they can come is via the ocean, and maybe the ocean waters are really dangerous in this area because maybe ships get capsized and taken all the time. So the only real way to attack it is from this area, and like when we look at the rest of the map, like the only other ways they can do it is to come around into this area where maybe there's another keep. So you can see how like the way your map can be set up can really impact how it informs your decisions that you make as a dungeon master with some of the story beats that you can include, depending on the kind of game you want to run. I like to see where like different land masses are and kind of interpret why they do the things that they do. And then even, let's say that you decide to do something crazy, like put, I'll even show you guys in one of my maps. Yep, we'll save. In one of my maps, right here. This is my actual map that I use for my campaign. It's still being fleshed out a little bit, but you can see, we come in here, we have this like kind of like cold area over here on this island. It's like kind of a very frigid, frozen landscape. We got these frigid depths here. Well, why is that? Maybe it's because we have a rift to the Frostfell, and this normally what would be maybe a tropical area under normal geography, but in this magical world, it's for some reason frozen over because of the fact that there's a rift to the Frostfell. Maybe there's some sort of warlock patron who's got realm over this kind of area of the seas and is kind of controlling everything that's happening. So Your maps can kind of really help you kind of create some different ideas and like things, what lives there, and then based on what lives there, you kind of inform like what kind of stories or what kind of different adventure hooks could be there. And then as you can see, this is a much better, you can see the much better quality here, obviously, with this one. And they actually do export this nice. So all you have to do to export your maps is to actually come over here, export as an image. It'll come up as this. You need the Pro to unlock any of these other cool different shades, but you can actually change some of these maps. The Windows software has like a little filter of Arctic, so you can make things a little bit colder. You can change the saturation, the contrast to make your maps really pop. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is going to end our discussion on Inkarnate and how it can actually be a really helpful map making tool that can then also inform some of your decisions that you make in your game prep, whether it be for your Pathfinder, Starfinder, and Dungeons & Dragons game. Now, if you have any questions, make sure you leave some comments down there in the comment section below. I'll be sure to answer those things. Also, if you have any other questions and you want a kind of a one-on-one kind of conversation, we actually do hang out here on YouTube at 9 o'clock Eastern Time, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And then we switch over to Twitch at 9:30. Link for the Twitch channel down in the description below. You can ask me all your D&D, all your Roll20, Fantasy Grounds, Inkarnate, map making, anything related to the hobby. I'd be more than happy to answer those questions and kind of have that cool little hangout conversation and tailor my advice to whatever you guys might actually need for your situation in your games. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you like it and subscribe. And until next time, happy gaming.